Hey guys, welcome to the Ramsey Paul Show. This is a show we do the top 5 news stories that I see fit to discuss. And thank you so much for being here. Trying to grow the channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. It's all free. Just watch. I really do appreciate it. And if you enjoy what I'm doing here, consider joining my Substack every week. I have a roundtable on Substack and a exclusive video to my Substack supporters. So thank you all very much. And okay, going over the stories of the week. The number one story today is crazy. It's where an organization actually turns against itself. And I've seen this phenomenon happen in many aspects. And one example is the Christian church. The church, you may not agree with it, that's fine, but is to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ, belief that Jesus is the only way to heaven, and faith in him, and that we believe in scripture, certain morality that we believe is inspired from God. And you can say, oh, that's all nonsense. That's okay. But the church is supposed to promote that. That's what it's all about, right? Otherwise, why bother? But what happens over time is the church becomes more of a grifting operation. Not everyone, but a lot of them do. And they're like, how can we appeal to more people? And the idea is, well, we got to be more big tent. We got to be more welcoming. We got to be more tolerant. But see, the gospel of Jesus Christ is never about tolerance. It's about change. It's not to accept your sins. It's that you need to repent or you go to hell. It's that simple. But the church says, oh, we can't do that. That just sounds too harsh. So we'll just do, if you have some sexual degeneracy, we'll accommodate that. And then they start moving on other areas like central to the gospel of Jesus Christ, like you have to believe in Jesus. Then they start, oh, well, that sounds a little exclusive to me. We should also include, you could also just be, if you're Muslim, you can get to heaven. You don't have to believe in Jesus. Oh, Jews, they get a special pass. They don't have to believe in Jesus, and so on. And further and further, they drift from what they were originally. And then eventually, you see, in many ways, the modern church, it's no one attends anymore. And all they stand for is social justice, weird sorts of homosexuality. And the only people that they really hate are not the people that do evil, but Christians or people that hold to a morality. Oh, they will despise you with a son, with the power of 1,000 suns. That they will just foam at the mouth. They're not going to foam at the mouth with some weirdo that wants to have sex with animals. Oh, we got to be accommodating. But if you believe in truth and objective truth, not subjective, they will just start to shake and call you a fascist, Nazi, white supremacist. And they end up hating their own religion. They end up hating Christian, but they still call themselves Christian. It's really bizarre. In fact, they don't even like the cross anymore because they think that's offensive. Well, that's what we're seeing in the secular world with Britain and England, where ideally the government of the British people is to help the English and Scottish and Welsh people. That's their function. But instead, the people that control Britain, they have ended up hating their own country, their own history. Oh, we've been colonizers. Oh, we're so evil. And they're trying to destroy their own country, so much so that they favor people that come in and actually literally attack and sometimes rape little girls over their own people. And they hate their own symbols, just like these real leftist churches end up hating the cross and they end up hating Jesus. In England, they end up hating the British flag or the English flag. And that's what we see now is we see a rebellion to this, people trying to hold up the English flag or proclaim British values. And we see this war that's been declared on by the British government against the British people with this ruling here. A huge ruling out of Britain where the courts have ruled illegal migrants must be allowed to stay at a hotel in Essex County And the people don't want it here, but people don't give a shit. The government doesn't give a shit what the people want, what the English people want. That's irrelevant. Essentially, the courts ruled that illegals over citizens. And this nation isn't unique. This notion isn't unique to Britain. It's hard for me to read. I got these sunglasses on because of my eye problems. It's what your elites all over the Western world think of you. And that's very true. And this is a deliberate plan. What they want to do is to try to ensure there's no more white majority countries because they consider white people to be evil, especially Christians. So they do everything they can to attack that. And when you're able to see it through that lens, things start to make sense, right? For example, if some kids are riding their bicycle and they accidentally put a tire mark on some homosexual flags that's on a crosswalk that they painted on, oh, hate crime charges. But they're perfectly fine with burning the American flag. And that's deliberate. And that's why you see all these double standards. If a white guy should attack a black guy, oh my God, international news, everyone's bawling, 20 FBI agents on it. Even if there's not an attack, that case, Bubba, what was his name? Bubba, the NASCAR driver, and there was a garage pole. Oh, it's a noose. It's a noose. I'm just like, no, Bubba, it's a garage pole. Okay. But, we got to have all these FBI agents. But when a white person is attacked, they hide the race of the attacker. And if you bring it up, they're like, oh, how is that relevant? How is that relevant? I don't see how race is relevant. Why'd you bring that up? You see that all the time. But if it's white, oh my God, they always bring up the race if it's a white attacker. And it, in a sense, it's like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. But it makes sense if you understand there's people that are trying to destroy us and they have certain propaganda they've been running on us for over 50 years now. And ever since World War II, I would say, and to try to destroy us. And it's been very effective. It's really brainwashed a lot of people. So a lot of people in Britain think it'd be best for Britain if all the white people were eliminated and maybe it's an Islamic republic or full of Indians and you burn the British flag, even though it would turn into a third world shithole, that they still think they need to do that because of their imaginary sins. When actually the British Empire, they raised the standard of living of people that were very savage in many ways to a higher level. But there's this unearned guilt that we've been placed upon us. And so everything goes through that. So when they look at this, they're like, well, we want to bring these migrants in. And even if they should attack your children, well, too bad. Too bad. This is their policy of trying to break England up. And if your children are attacked, well, we don't care. And in fact, if you criticize, if you complain about it on social media, we'll throw you in jail. And don't you dare defend yourself. Otherwise, you're going to go to jail for 20 years. The migrant can commit horrific crimes, and we're not going to do anything about it. How else can you describe it than like the English government is at war with its people? And this isn't, as Stephen Crowder said, this isn't just the English government. You see this across all Western governments because this has been coordinated. And they attempted it in the United States. Luckily, Donald Trump doesn't believe in this. And I think there's starting to be a lot of pushback. People are starting to wake up really what's happening here. But we have to understand this didn't happen by accident. This has been a long process of cultural Marxism of a people that hate us, that are fundamentally demonic, they hate Christ, and they want to bring misery to our people. And this is what they're doing here. So this was part of it. And one of the things that came to light, you remember that young girl that became somewhat famous because she pulled out an axe and a knife to defend her sister, a young white Scottish girl. I think she was 14, and she was trying to defend her sister. And the migrants that were threatening to sexually assault her and attack these little girls, they didn't get in trouble. No. The girls that try to defend themselves got in trouble because you can't defend yourself. That's white supremacy. I spoke with one of the moms of the girls and got the entire story that the media is covering up online about. And I think it's important for us to understand. So this is of the mother. This lady talked to the mother of the girl. So first of all, the reporting got the names of the girls mixed up. There were 3 girls who were there who were accosted and attacked by the migrants. Lola is the hero from the video. She's the one with the axe defending her sister from the migrant attackers. Ruby is Lola's older sister who was attacked and hospitalized. Maya, Ruby's best friend, who was with them and went to call the police after Ruby was attacked by the migrants. And so here's the summary of what happened. So what happened was the girls were out just walking, and the man in the picture began making comments to the Lola, the younger girl, calling her sexy and other sexual remarks. And the girl started to tell the man to leave them alone and stop following him and stop making sexual remarks. A lot of times these migrants do this. After that, the man's sister, also in the picture, came around the corner and physically attacked Ruby, the older sister. She grabbed her hair and dragged her to the floor and started to punch her. And then both men and the woman were involved with the attack. So what happened? And then the girl came out and defended her sister from the attack of these migrants, because they have this idea they like white women, especially kids, and they should be able to molest them. And again, if you want to stop that, you're a white supremacist. You better not do that. So in this situation, some young girls, and why did they have a knife and axe with them? Because this wasn't the first time. They've probably been repeatedly harassed and attacked by these people, and they decided they had to arm themselves to defend themselves, because the government won't defend them. Their own government, where they pay huge taxes, doesn't give a shit about them. They want to break up Scotland and England, replace the English people and replace the Scottish people with these third world migrants that many of them come in and are violent. They don't care. They think that is funny. And so that is what's happening there. And in response, a lot of the people in Britain and in Scotland, they're raising their flags of their heritage, and people get a sense of pride in that. Now the government, boy, they're racing out right away to take down the flags of their own nation. This is like crazy. It's just so crazy. But this is a sign of rebellion, of defiance, because you remember the nation is not the government. The nation is the people. And if the government doesn't represent the people, if they engage in treason, like many of our people have, like Tom Cotton, he doesn't represent people in Arkansas. He represents people of Israel because he's being paid off. Treason. We have many cases where government officials, either they're being paid by Soros or they're brainwashed or whatever, they don't represent their people. In fact, they hate their people. They aren't the nation. The people are the nation. And you have a right to fly your flag to represent your people. So if you fly the American flag, it's not in support of the American government, it's in support of the American people. I have the Confederate battle flag I have in my study here. That represents our Southern heritage. Even though I wasn't born in the South, I appreciate their heritage, their people. That represents the people of the South. It doesn't represent the Confederacy or any government officials. It represents the people. And I like to see this is happening in Britain, that people will understand that all people have a right to the homeland, not just Jewish people. We have that right too. And it's intolerable that the government should be bringing in vicious people that attack our children. And if our children try to defend themselves, the children go to prison. That is outrageous. Those government officials need to be arrested, and they need to face the harshest penalty possible. You guys can figure out the old England had pretty harsh penalties. We need to bring some of those back.
England, where the English flag has simultaneously become controversial and patriotic. Some in that country see it as a sign of protest, others see it as a sign of patriotism. And it's a little reflected in what's happening here in America.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, again, so much of what happens in Europe happens in America and vice versa.
And I agree that. So raising your flag is a symbol of your people, that you have loyalty to your nation. And remember, the nation's not necessarily the government. So when I fly my Confederate battle flag, I'm not paying homage to Tom Cotton, who doesn't really represent me. He's decided to throw his lot into a foreign nation. It represents our people that actually live here, especially the people who live in these hills and their identity. That is what I believe. Or if you fly your American flag, that's the same thing, or your Scottish flag.
Sometimes we're on the leading edge of a trend, sometimes they're on the leading edge of a trend. But I remember back in the crazy BLM summer of 2020, I had a buddy of mine say, I was going to put the American flag out today, but I'm worried that some BLM person is going to ransack my house or come and vandalize it in some way because they see the American flag somehow as this controversial symbol. It's not a controversial symbol. Nothing should be less controversial than the American flag. It's the one thing that whether you're a Democrat or Republican should unite us all together. We should all love our country, be proud of our country. So again, some of these trends where you have Americans worried about flying the American flag because they think their house is going to get vandalized. First of all, that's crazy. Second of all, you see the same things happening in Europe. And I think we just have to be on guard against this stuff. It's okay to be proud of your country. It's in fact a good thing to be proud of your country.
I would disagree with him a little bit, JD Vance. I understand what he's saying. It's okay to be proud of your nation, not necessarily your country. There's two different concepts. The country involves the political designation and the government. I don't think the British should be proud of their country. It's extremely corrupt, but they should be proud of their nation. There's a difference there, and that's the way I look at it. Because again, you can have a nation even if you don't have a country. The Cherokee Indians are a nation, they don't have a country. For the longest time, the Jewish people, they didn't have a country until 1948, but they had a nation of their people. Your nation is from the Latin word natio, which means blood, birth. And that's what it means. So you're related by blood or your kin.
And we should push back against the crazies who say we should be so ashamed of our culture and of our heritage that we shouldn't be willing to fly a flag. It's craziness. We had to call that craziness out. I'd encourage our European friends to follow suit.
So why the left is so upset about it in Europe and elsewhere is because when the English fly their flag, that flag is for their people, meaning white English people. It's not for the government. It's not for the people they just pulled out of some tribe in Africa that's running around with a butcher knife. That's not what it represents. It represents their people. And the government hates it and the globalists hate it because no, you guys can't have a country. We're trying to eliminate white countries. You can't have a country. And that you, by having this flag, it's like representing Nazism or ethnic nationalism. And ethnic nationalism is very wrong unless the Jewish people do it. Then you have to support it. But that's their position. So that's the number one story is the British people have declared war on the English people. I wish the British people well. And again, I come down hard on the English and the British. I think that's because I'm closer to them genetically. That's where my family came from. Ramsey's a Scottish name. My grandmother from Wales originally. And so that's my homeland in a sense. So I have a lot of identity to those islands. And it's sad what's happening there. All right. A couple of things about this Minnesota shooter, and we covered this a little bit, but one of the things that has happened that is really crazy is I'm just show you here. Hate all these ads they put on all these web pages. Almost makes it's like AIDS or something just pops up. You can't. It's gross. But anyway, Rosie O'Donnell has falsely stated on Thursday that Robin Westman, that was a guy that was Robert. He had a sex change and then he went on a rampage. She claimed that she was a Republican and a MAGA person. And this is an example of how the left, they build their own fake narratives and the media helps them. Because you remember yesterday, I showed you that media report where they said, oh, this gunman, there's a report say he had Donald Trump's name on his rifle. And that's true, but what he wrote was kill Donald Trump. So it wasn't supporting Donald Trump. He was saying, I want to kill Donald Trump. So it's just ridiculous. But the person here, they leave that part out, the kill, I want to kill Donald Trump. They leave that off and just say, oh, Donald Trump's name. So the idiots that listen to it will think that it was a MAGA supporter when it was the furthest thing. It was the opposite. But that's what this is an example of how the media intentionally tries to frame the news, and people that just listen to the mainstream media, they're basically told lies, like the lies that white men are responsible for most mass shootings. It's not. People of color are way more responsible, but people hear these lies over time. And so what happened is it was totally wrong. The guy involved, in fact, Robert, he said he regretted his transition, and he brainwashed himself, and it was something he regretted. He obviously had a lot of mental illnesses that go along with that. Obviously, I think that's going to probably lead to mental problems when you sexually mutilate yourself. It's got to mess you up because you're in a limbo state, because you realize, wait a minute, they told me I'll be a girl, but I'm not a girl. No one sees me as a girl. And even if everyone affirms me and waves around the homosexual flag, that still doesn't make me a girl. I'm just a guy that's been sexually mutilated. And so it puts you in a weird spot. And a lot of these guys, they can never enjoy sex because they don't have their sex organs anymore. And it's hard. You can't just go back. So at a young age, before they're even able to legally decide to drink a beer or have a tattoo, a lot of these mothers, in order to get Facebook likes and affirmations, take their kids out and do this horrific stuff. It obviously should be illegal. And again, I'm not really trying to defend the guy. The guy's evil. I'm sure he's in hell. But you can understand, in a sense, the abuse that broke his mind. And so mental illnesses, they tend to be closely related. Meaning, if you have one mental illness, it tends to more likely lead to others. So if you're kind of screwed up in one area, you're probably going to be screwed up in other areas. That's why when you look at suicide rates or drug addiction or risky behaviors, they tend to follow if you do certain other activities that are unnatural. And it kind of makes sense, right? So let's say if your hobby is to dig up corpses and have sex with them, it's pretty grim. Well, if you have that problem, you're probably going to have other problems in your life too. It's just probably not going to be that one problem. And, we have seen this. Serial killers, almost invariably, they start out with torturing animals and then they go further and further. It's not like, they're just fine in every other aspect, but I just have this one weird hobby I like. It's not like that. It spreads out. And you see that with the transgenderism, which is based on a lie. It breaks their minds. They get into other things, drug abuse, self-harming activities. They get a lot of hatred. They get involved with a lot of satanic type of stuff because it's basically a hatred of God. And so I'm not really surprised that we would see this. And there's been a recent, because of this shooting, a lot of mocking of prayer. I know the mayor in Minneapolis, he mocked the prayer, and so did Gavin Newsom. And Tulsi Gabbard, who I really like, she may be one of the dark horse candidates to run for president. And I do like her. I think she's got a level head. And that's unusual. I'm usually very skeptical of women politicians, but she seems to be very grounded. And she was saying, she's talking about the mayor of Minneapolis and Jen Psaki, who criticized prayers in the wake of the Minneapolis tragedy, are expressing the same anti-God sentiment that motivated the shooter. Yeah, it did. And in a sense, again, Satanism is an inversion of what God has created. God has created man and female to come together sexually to produce life. And Satan inverts that and has sterile sex and all this sort of weird stuff that just leads to disease and death. He aimed his wrath at God by trying to stop people with his bullets from praying to God. Now is the time for us to come together and join hands in prayer for the children who were killed, their loved ones, and those who survived this horrific shooting. Yeah, that's the thing. It's interesting that politicians should now actually they feel comfortable mocking people and the families because of this event and their faith. And again, they would never dare mock the faith of, let's say, Muslims or Jews. They wouldn't a million years dare to do that. But Christians are a fair target. All right. Number 3 story. Got some foreign news today. I guess we got a lot of foreign news today on this show. And this has to do, let's see, with, I've seen what time it is. I feel like I have a lot of stuff to go over still. Canada is really imploding. Canada's GDP per capita is or will shortly be lower than Mississippi's, dead last in the U.S. Mississippi's really low because there's a high Black population there. Mississippi has the 6th highest growth in the quarter in the aggregate. And so what's happening is the Canadian economy contracted 1.6% in Q2 as tariffs hit. So the tariffs are really hitting Canada. They can't get in a tariff war with us. They're trying to act all tough and defiant. But I think Trump is basically right. They cannot exist really without America. And their idea to improve their economy was bring in an infinity amount of Indians and Chinese, and that should boom the economy. That has not happened. Diversity hasn't made Canada prosperous, as the liars said it would happen. And that is where we are there. All right. Number 4 story, and this is something that we need to watch. It looks like we may be getting into a war again with Iran. I know our best little friends in the Middle East are screaming that they want us to get into another war for them. And Iran faces a return of UN sanctions. What happens now? And what's basically happened after the 12-day war, both sides declared victory. Trump claimed that we wiped out their nuclear enrichment program, which is, I don't know if we really did, but whatever. But Iran won't allow nuclear weapons inspectors in because Iran claims those inspectors are biased. And what they do is they provide intelligence data to the Israelis and to the Americans that allow the Israelis and the Americans to target their sites, even if they're not creating nuclear weapons. And allegedly, Iran is claiming that even the name of Iranian scientists they provide to Israel to be murdered. So they're saying, no, you can't have those inspectors in anymore. And so this is probably going to create a big uproar. And we're going to see the usual suspects are going to be demanding that we go to war with Iran. Either you allow inspectors in or we're going to bomb again. And that's a big possibility it will happen. I think Trump is trying to get rid of the Ukrainian mess and pull out of that and maybe focus more on Israel and Iran, because we only have a finite number of weapons. And of course, our best little friends that control AIPAC are going to get the first choice of weapons over Ukraine. So look for that. I don't really like to see that happening, but that is the way we are. All right. And let's see here. And the other thing that happens is Trump is trying to reform the Center of Disease Control. And it's become very political. We saw that during COVID, obviously, and corrupt. And we'll listen to Stephen Miller, and my favorite guy in the Trump administration, who's Jewish. So let's listen to Stephen Miller.
As we know, the CDC's credibility was shattered during the COVID era. This is now widely understood and widely acknowledged. And
yeah, it was, because it became, the whole COVID thing was used to hurt Trump. I said it at the time. I was looking at the data. YouTube really censored that, not just me, but doctors. We've been vindicated, but it was used for political purposes.
CDC used to be, of course, or seen widely around the world as a premier health agency. And much of the world discovered in the last few years that CDC was actually staffed by a lot of very partisan, very political bureaucrats who weren't at all concerned about public health and weren't actually very knowledgeable about public health. And we are working hard. And more importantly, Secretary Kennedy, one of the world's foremost voices, advocates, and experts on public health, is working hard to restore the credibility and the integrity of CDC as a scientific organization committed to the scientific method and getting to the root causes of the public health epidemic in this country. You know, there's one chronic illness after another where we have seen incidences and rates in the Western world in general, and America in particular, skyrocket over recent decades and years, both childhood illnesses and adult illnesses. And we know that the drivers of these chronic illnesses are things that can be explained both through environmental factors, both through pharmacological factors, as well as other things that impact public health and well-being. But there has been no serious effort until Secretary Kennedy came along to deal with these systemic root drivers of chronic health. And it's an honor to be able to work with Secretary Kennedy as he tackles these issues on behalf of President Trump. As we know, the CDC's credibility.
So this is they're trying to reform the CDC because it's become very political. And I do support that. I think health issues are pretty, I'm dealing with them, right? And believe me, I think diet and exercise and everything are important. We should look at what's in our vaccines. And I'm not disputing that. But part of the reason, if you look at this historically, people didn't really have as many health problems because they never, for the most part, they didn't live as long. So they died before they could develop health problems. Like the biggest cause of cancer is not what you eat or anything like that. It's age. If you get older, you're probably going to get cancer eventually. Years ago, most people didn't live to be an old age. I mean, there's some people that did, but you're more likely to die young. So if a lot of people, if the average life expectancy is 35 or 40, well, there's going to be fewer people are going to develop cancer because it happens older. And other problems too. Like I have cataracts. Everyone watch this will get cataracts if you live long enough. Now, back in the day, a lot of people didn't live long enough to get them. So you could say, oh, they're on the increase. Well, people live longer. That's why. So, but part of what he's saying is true about we got to get the politics out of the CDC. And we saw with COVID how it became extremely political. And we got to learn a lot. You know, they were trying to do a whole great reset. The guy even wrote a book about it, The Great Reset. We're never going to go back. We're going to build back better. Remember Biden saying that? This is a new era. They were trying to fundamentally change everything after COVID. And no one really voted for that, but they were using that as an excuse to take more control. Just like they attempted with global warming to take control. People didn't buy into it. Speaking of which, it's beautiful days. It's been in the 70s here. It's been cooler than usual this summer in Arkansas. So, so much for the global warming hysteria. But anyway, guys, those were the top 5 stories of the day. Let me just run down them again. The number 1 is the British government has declared war on its own people. Number 2, Rosie O'Donnell and other influencers are repeating the fake claim that the shooter was MAGA in support of Trump. Instead, it was a transgender guy, girl that regretted it, that actually had on his gun that he wanted to kill Trump. Number 3 is Canada's imploding. Their economy's in shambles, and it doesn't look to be getting better despite all their immigrants that were supposed to enrich them. Number 4, it looks like the usual suspects are trying to agitate for another war with Iran. Look for that coming this fall. And number 5, Trump is attempting to reform the CDC. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.